Aftermath of a Fallen Star. Chapter 4. I Have a Problem. The first thing I realized when I woke up was that it was cold, and not just I will have a flu cold. I am talking about a frozen wasteland cold. I quickly got up off the floor, hoping to fly to a warm spot, when I realized that I was in the middle of Ponyville during a dark gray day. What creeped me out the most was the apparent lack of snow, while I was unable to feel even the weakest wind blowing in my face, and yet I was freezing. Even more confusing was the fact that I was in the middle of town, with no memory of how I got there in the first place. I concentrated, trying to think of what happened last night, but it was all hazy. I remembered drinking a few hard ciders, and wondered if I'd passed out. I wondered if maybe this was some big prank that was going on. Wouldn't put it past Pinkie Pie to do so. She's been in a pranking mood ever since, well, just a long time. But for some reason, I didn't think this was a prank. I then thought I must have crashed during a stunt, but there was no crater and I had no injuries. Something seemed wrong, very wrong. I shook my head and fought against a massive headache before getting up and looking around, noticing two things. The first was that there were very few ponies around, which was strange since this was a central hub for every pony in town. It was also market week if I remembered correctly, so where were the busy ponies going up and down the street to get to the markets? I looked up at the sky and didn't even see a single Pegasus. There were a lot of clouds, giving me something to scold the weather team about when I found them, but not a single ray of sunshine. The second thing I noticed provided me a clue as to why everything was so grim. The street lamps, the houses, and the trees all had black ribbons tied against them. I felt myself turn even colder when I saw this, knowing all too well what it meant. It had been a few months, but I could still remember the day we all put a bunch of black ribbons out for one of the greatest ponies I ever knew, and one of the best friends I ever had. I fought back the tears in my eyes, struggling not to lose it there. Yeah, I was about to cry, so what? If you had a best friend who had died, you would... Sorry, I'm getting off track. After I regained my senses, I started to concentrate, trying to figure out who it was that had kicked the bucket, but no names came to me. Walking down the street, I saw more and more of the dreaded ribbons, which made me worry even more. Whoever it was that had died had to have been some pony important. Finally, I decided to ask two ponies, a unicorn and an earth pony nearby, who it was. "Excuse me," I asked, but they didn't even turn around to face me. Huffing, I raised my voice. "Hey, I'm talking to you!" Ignoring me, the unicorn said, "So was she really this important? From what I've heard, she was obsessed with getting drunk almost every day." "She only became that a few months ago, around the time you moved here. But before that, she was an amazing pony. Every pony loved her. To see her just go like that, it was..." The earth pony shivered. "I still can't believe it. First Princess Twilight and now this? Haven't we suffered enough tragedy in our town?" The unicorn scoffed. "If you ask me, she caused her own demise. The way that she acted and talked to ponies? I know she's suffered a great loss, but really, when you've been arrested for being drunk in public, causing fights, and public urination, you should at least take the hint that you need help." "She kept denying it. You know how some alcoholics are," pointed out the earth pony. Despite my attempts to get their attention, I listened in with open ears. The only pony that I knew who had a drinking problem was Berry Punch. The poor mare and her husband divorced when they suffered a miscarriage, and she'd been a drinker ever since with very few friends. Last I heard she was getting better, but I guess that wasn't the case now. Despite not being close to her, I couldn't help but feel sorry that she was gone. I was about to wonder how she died when the unicorn said something that made me freeze up. "Not to mention I heard she got suspended from that academy she went to, for the Wonderbolts, right? She got drunk and caused an accident that hurt her fellow cadets, and then she just got worse," said the earth pony, shaking her head. "At least she died quickly, snapped her neck when she crashed as I heard." You know that moment in your life when you know what's in front of you but you deny it constantly just to fool yourself? That's what I had started to go through when I heard that. I knew there was only one pony in Ponyville on the Wonderbolts Academy list. Some pony who was suspended for causing a disturbance in camp that led to an argument and a lot of hurt Pegasi. Some pony who was, right now, ready to piss herself in fear. Me. I slowly raised my hoof to try something. How many times have I seen this in movies, or read this in books? The protagonist who did this would then find out, after he saw he couldn't touch them, that he was a ghost and was dead. And in a split second, when I saw my hoof fade into her head without a single sign of disturbance, I knew who it was that had died. Me. I was dead. I didn't give out a big "No!" or cry or anything dramatic like that. I just stood there, trying to process what I had just learned. The two ponies soon walked away, while I sat on my haunches, feeling no longer cold but alone and afraid. If I really was dead, why was I still here? Why wasn't I in the afterlife with my best friend? Where was the pale pony coming to reap my soul? Was I going to be stuck as a ghost forever? I shook my head. This had to be a dream. I wasn't dead yet, I couldn't be. I wasn't a Wonderbolt yet, and if I really was dead, then I wouldn't be here as a spirit, right? I had nothing to hold me down here, nothing. I continued to believe that this was a dream, and that I had to wake up from this. The question was, how? I thought long and hard before remembering that you never saw your face in a dream, otherwise you woke up. Twilight mentioned it once when I told her of a dream I had, where I was flying into space, and when I looked back I saw my head as a planet before waking up. If I really was dead, there had to be a funeral for me, right? A place for others to mourn for me? My body sounded like it was intact according to the dream unicorn, so there had to be an open casket service. Although I wish I had gone out better than crashing. I mean, really? Dying from a crash? I know it happens, but that's so cliché. I also scoffed at what the unicorn said about me. I wasn't an alcoholic. A heavy drinker, sure, but nothing more than a bottle or two. For some reason, this made my headache worse, but I shrugged it off as best I could. I had to get to the funeral home at the other edge of town. That way I could see myself and then wake up alive and well. I flew into the air and rushed as fast as I could, trying to fight off the growing doubts in my mind. Me? Rainbow Dash dead? No way. I was going to live until I was 80, maybe 90. And even if I was dead, wouldn't I have met Twilight? I shook my head again. I didn't want to think about her. Not now. I was already going through enough headache trying to end this nightmare. It didn't take me long to arrive at Ponyville's funeral home, where I was treated to a scary sight. A large banner was up front, surrounded by multicolored flowers with the words, "Farewell Rainbow Dash" in big letters. I forced myself to laugh, as if I was trying to tell the dream that I wasn't scared by what I was seeing. Even though it took me a while to walk up those steps and into that building, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't chattering my teeth or feeling the need to just fly away and come back later. I was scared, but can you blame me? If you suddenly woke up, heard you were dead, and saw your funeral, you would freak out too. I entered the main room, which was filled with so many ponies in the pew that you think the whole town was here. Almost every pony was crying as I walked down the center aisle, seeing my Weather Patrol teammates and ponies I knew from the academy looking like some pony had died. Even Spitfire was crying, and that bucked me in the gut. We argued last time we talked, and I said some things I shouldn't have said, but she was trying to control me. I tried not to think about it. I'm not dead, I'm not dead, I'm not fucking dead, I said to myself, but it didn't help. Especially when I got to the front of the pews. My friends were there, all of them sobbing harder than I had ever seen them, almost as much as they did at Twilight's funeral. She was the only one not there, which I cursed my luck for. If she was, then I would have known this was a dream. Because I can't forget that day when I got the letter that said that a mare I respected and loved like a sister was murdered. I'll never forget looking into that glass coffin, seeing her so beautiful and yet so lifeless. I didn't want to look at them anymore. Although it took all my willpower not to hug Fluttershy, who was weeping like a rainstorm in Rarity's hooves. I turned to the other side and felt my heart sink even worse at who I saw. My parents, Rainbow Bolt and Firefly, were holding each other like they were a lifeline in an ocean. I had never seen them cry, not once. I walked over to them, trying to nuzzle them, hoping they could feel me somehow, but I just phased through. Even if this was a dream, I at least wanted some reaction. My baby, my little rainbow. It's all right, honey. It's okay, whispered my father. She's at peace now. She's no longer in any pain. Why couldn't she let us help her? Screamed my mother, pounding my father's chest. Why couldn't she just listen to us and get help? She'd be... I gulped and slowly turned my head towards the end of the room. There, placed in the center, was a blue coffin with multiple flowers decorating it. flowers that held all the colors of my mane. The coffin was open, and I walked forward, doing my best to keep my eyes off it until I reached the wooden bed. I thought about not looking. I really did. But I didn't turn back. I looked. I saw who it was that had died. Me. I gave a horrified cry at the sight of myself lying there. I wasn't deformed or scarred or anything. It looked like I was just sleeping in my academy uniform. My eyes were gently closed. My lips formed in a small frown. My hooves folded upon my unmoving chest. I fell back, gasping and holding my heart in an effort to calm myself. Rainbow Dash! I turned around, hoping that some pony had noticed me, but what I saw was Scootaloo, in a black dress, rushing forward with tears in her eyes. I tried to take her into my grasp as she charged forward, begging whatever powers it be for me to touch her. Like the rest, she went right through me as if I was nothing but air. I turned around and watched my biggest fan leap into the coffin and start shaking me over and over again. Come back, Rainbow, please! I don't care if you call me a flightless annoyance. I'm sorry I called you a drunk loser. Just please come back! I didn't know what was more frightening to me, the thought that I had dared to hurt Scootaloo's feelings, who I was teaching to fly, the fact that she called me her idol, a drunk loser, or the realization that I had seen my face with no hope to ever wake up. No, this can't be. I need to wake up. I need to wake up! I screamed louder than I ever had before, but no pony heard me. I watched, teary-eyed, as Applejack rushed over and picked Scootaloo up. Scootaloo, stop! She's gone, Scoots. She's gone. Why? Why did she have to die like that? I hate her. I hate that stupid alcohol that killed her. I hate myself, she screamed, struggling for a while before she went limp and continued to cry on Applejack's shoulder. I should have helped her. I could have helped. Why didn't she listen to me? It's not your fault, Sugar Cube. Some ponies, Applejack bit her lip, some ponies change when they have a problem. Right beside them, invisible to them all, was me, still crying, because I couldn't deny it any longer. I, Rainbow Dash, was dead. And I was an alcoholic.